"Your presence here makes me uncomfortable," was not the greeting I expected to receive as I boarded the ship for my very first oceanographic expedition. But I was getting on this ship in Eastern Canada as the only American during the COVID pandemic. And although I wasn't sick at the time or at all, it was clear that the prospect of me bringing COVID into the country or onto the ship made people feel uncomfortable to be around me. I was 25 years old at the time, and I had this really rosy vision of what seagoing oceanography was going to be like. I knew it was going to be long hours and tough work, but this sense of adventure with getting to see places on the seafloor that nobody had ever seen before, getting to collect samples for my own research for the very first time, and getting to be part of this group of people who were all brought together by our shared interest in these special places on Earth was really inspiring to me. But the reality was, there I was making people uncomfortable, which was making me uncomfortable, and this whole situation was exacerbated by the fact that the people that I was joining had been working together for several years, and I was getting on that ship knowing no one. And my feelings of discomfort and isolation and my own unpreparedness for the situation kind of came to a head the night that we were supposed to leave, or the night before we were supposed to leave the port, when I realized I hadn't even thought to pack any seasickness medication. So I made this late night run to a pharmacy, and I literally mean run because I didn't feel like there was anybody that I could ask for a ride. And as I was boarding the ship later that night, I felt like I was staring down the barrel of 21 really lonely days in this confined environment in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And maybe even more crushing was this sense that maybe the big discovery for me on this trip wasn't going to be scientific, but just that I never wanted to do it again. But I got on the ship and off we went. And about 3 days into our operations, I was sitting up in the galley eating some emotional support chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. And I looked up and I saw in one of the snack cabinets was this box of Rice Krispie treats. And it reminded me of this tradition that I had heard about in deep sea oceanography, where people decorate styrofoam cups and they sink them into the ocean, and the pressure of the ocean shrinks them into the size of a shot glass, which is fun because miniature things are delightful. And I thought to myself, Rice Krispie treats and styrofoam aren't that different. So I grabbed one and I heat sealed it into like 5 layers of plastic bags. And I went down and I zip tied it onto our ROV, our remotely operated vehicle that we were using to do our sampling. And the next morning, that ROV sank 2,000 meters down to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean and spent the day sampling these beautiful methane seep ecosystems, Rice Krispie treat in tow. And when it resurfaced that night, I went to retrieve my snack. Once Rice Krispie treat, now super dense, sugary rice brick that looked tiny in its wrapping. And I brought that up to dinner with me. And as I was unwrapping it, I could tell it piqued the interests of some of the people around me, who I think were just interested in the prospect of getting to partake in a snack that had a journey. So I took the rice brick and I cut into slivers to share, and the texture was horrible, but everybody seemed to really love it. And that kicked off what I like to call the Deep Food Submergence Committee, where every night a group of us would meet and we would talk about what food would be fun to send to the bottom of the seafloor and how we could wrap it so that we could eat it when it got back, what could happen to it. So Rice Krispie treats shrink, Wonder Bread shrinks. Oranges don't shrink, but they have this really lovely like pre-juice texture when they come back. And the enthusiasm for this activity was just growing and growing as the trip was going on, up until the very last day of operations when the head chef came to me and asked if we could send everybody's steak dinners down to be tenderized. Now, I had just gotten over being the potentially disease-carrying stranger, And the image of everybody's steaks scattered around the seafloor was enough for me to know that I had to veto that one. But we had one final dessert of dense sugary rice bricks and extra juicy orange slices. And 2 days later, I got off that ship knowing that I wanted to go to sea again. Samples in tow, having just spent 3 weeks getting to see places on the seafloor that nobody had ever seen before. And when I went to the airport to fly home and I walked past the airport bar, I saw a group of the scientists and the crew sitting there, and they enthusiastically waved me over, and I was so happy to join them. Thank you.